Camping World.
Newsradio 1070 WKOK presents On the Mark. It's a chance to voice your opinion on the events that affect life in the Susquehanna Valley. Call 1-800-795-9565 or email onthemark@wkok.com. Now, here are your hosts for On the Mark, Mark Lawrence and Joe McGranaghan.
Greetings and welcome on board the WKOK Live Telephone Talk Show. It is entitled On the Mark. I am Mark Lawrence, host of the show. You don't have to make the goofy smile. Joe McGranaghan.
I just offended 3 people, right?
I don't think you offended anyone yet, according to the little counter.
Okay, well, I'm safe then.
It's not it says 1, and that's Kevin. And he's seen that so many times that he's not offended. The webcam is up and running. In case you wonder what we're talking about, it is an opportunity for you to look at a crystal clear image of the video of Studio A right now. You'll see Joe McGranaghan and I in Studio A. Kevin Herr on the other side of the glass cannot be seen, but he is the one controlling the switcher and making the graphics come and go and making it look super sharp.
He could be seen if we unscrewed the camera and pointed it at him.
Right, which we ain't about to do.
Okay.
There's no reason our audience should suffer any worse than they already are. So we'll just keep the camera right where it is. But the webcam, despite our protestations, is up and running, and we invite you to check it out. If you missed the show, you can go back into the archives and watch it on our YouTube channel. On the Mark, brought to you by the Sunbury Motor Company, family-owned dealership since 1915, 4th Street, Sunbury, and routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Find out tons more about them at sunburymotors.com. They invite you to visit the Quick Lane on North 4th Street in Sunbury. They say if you have a road trip plan, maybe you're going to the shore or you're headed out west to visit some family, the Works Fuel Saver package will be perfect for you. It only costs about $30 if you got the coupon that you can get on the .com, and they'll check tires, fluids, belts, hoses, rotation, inflation, and everything else-ization in your vehicle. And they have a specialization to make sure that your travel is safe and your vehicle is ready to go. And they would just love to help you out at the Quick Lane, sunburymotors.com.
The quick loan.
Well, the Quick Loan. They can arrange that,
They
too.
can arrange that, I'm sure.
If they come out with that grim look on their face and say, sorry, Joe, it's time for a truck that was not built in the 80s. And then you can...
I always like these places to have signs up saying, bad credit, no problem. Really? Why isn't it a problem?
Well, I guess they'll sell you a car anyway. Then they will hunt you down like a dog if you try to
right.
not
You don't
pay
make
it.
those payments, right?
The Lenape Solar email in basket is open. You simply email on the mark at WKOK.com and we'll read your email on the radio. Lenape Solar is located at 140 South 2nd Street in Sunbury. They do have a showroom. It's a showroom that shows off the photovoltaic and the solar thermal arrays that they have displayed there, and you can hook up with one of them, or perhaps there's a different type of a system. You can find out how your home or business could end up enjoying free electricity or free hot water if you want to heat something or warm something. 100% free thanks to the power of the sun. They can hook you up. LenapeSolar.com is their website, and they would just love to hear from you, either emailically, webically, or impersonally.
How about smoke signally? Signally. I can't even do that.
I got to write this down.
Smoke signal. How would you say smoke signal in your speak?
Signally?
Smoke signally. All right, that sounds right.
I think you said it right. You coined another phrase. S-N, how do you spell signal?
S-I-N-I-G-A-L. S-I-G-N-A-L.
I-C-A-L-Y. A new word, smoke signally. Means, of course, to send a note by Joe. We'll give you the attribution there. Our list of made-up words is getting much longer.
Probably environmentally unfriendly, though, wouldn't you think?
The list or
no,
the
smoke?
Oh, okay. The list is fine. It's just a piece of paper that's
the
being
Native
reused.
Americans will have to stop sending smoke signals.
Right. It didn't work out.
Maybe they can send those e-vapor signals instead.
Maybe their early communication hurt climate change.
Could have been. That may be the whole problem we have right now today.
Started. It's a good thing we took them over and ran them off the ground, off the land, because they were contributing to climate change. Well, Joe McGranaghan is my co-host today. I'm Mark Lawrence. I always say I'm subpar, but it irritates people. So above average is my ability to host the show. Certainly not superlative or excellent, but always glad to be here.
Certainly at least adequate.
Adequate, at least. And that is exactly the word. Already on staff. He's already here. You might as well let him do it. Is the phrase that's on our
He
time.
can't blow us out of the water too badly.
Right. He knows the 7 deadly words, and he won't say them, so he's in. Kevin Herr is on the other side of the glass, ultra superlative producer, highly appropriate bumper music, and wonderful operator of a video switcher, which we didn't even know he knew how to do. But he knew a lot more about video than we ever realized, and he's making it happen now. And let's see, what can we say about Joe?
Not much.
Award-winning, are you a broadcaster?
Yes.
What's the highest award you've ever won in broadcasting?
Well, I Broadcaster of the Year for the state of Pennsylvania. Was inducted into the State Broadcasting Hall of Fame.
That's something.
Remember those things? Yeah, okay.
Vaguely.
All right.
They were a big deal back in the day.
Yeah, but that was a long time ago.
And now you retired from radio, but very, very active in the community.
Well, I'm still active in broadcasting, State Association of Broadcasters. I chair the Pennsylvania Emergency Communications Committee for the State Association of Broadcasters, yes.
Really?
We're the EAS people, that beep, beep you hear on TV. That's what we do. Amber alerts, all that stuff.
Well, you're fired up today.
Oh, yeah, I'm fired up every day.
No, I don't think so. I've seen you wobble in here.
Oh, yeah, well, wobbling is my thing these days. I just dropped my pen. I'll be back.
Joe will be back in a few moments. We can talk about him while he's gone.
Yeah, well, I'm back.
What about your toe?
Well, it's sore and swollen, and fortunately, I saw the orthopedic people yesterday, and I don't need surgery on it, but I got to wear this stupid shoe for 2 weeks.
Well, at least it's blue, It's not like polka dot or pink or something.
Well, yeah, but then that makes it hard for me to wear my brown shoes.
Oh, yeah, does it? Yeah, you don't want your shoes not to match.
I can't go out color uncoordinated, no.
Yeah, but no cane or crutches or anything like that?
No, I'm not quite ready for a cane yet.
You're just limp.
Just limp, yes, right, that's about it.
That's it?
My brain and my foot. Actually, my foot's swollen, but it will go down eventually. So it's coming along. But thank you for asking.
Oh, well, sure.
I'm sure no one else cares, but I do appreciate your concern.
Well, I care deeply. I think if there's one thing you always nurtured here when you were the COO and the sort of the general manager of things was that familiar atmosphere that was collegial and cordial and casual, and it really opened the door to a lot of cursing occasionally, but it meant that we weren't so professional that we couldn't take it. So.
Yes, well, when I broke my toe, I think I had a few choice words to say.
Did you?
My son said to me, "Did you learn any new curse words?" I said, "No, the old ones work quite well."
Didn't learn any new ones. That's funny. You need new ones. Hey, we don't need that. Well, we can talk about the issues of the day around here. I noticed in the Daily Item, really some of the words that John Showers has said to us in the past couple of weeks. I put in a very succinct letter, not really taking Northumberland County Commissioners to task, but really some pointed remarks about the fact that this impasse is really in the hands of the Northumberland County Commissioners, and to that end, I should say Stephen Bridey and Vinnie Clausey, and not so much Rick Schock, as he's sort of kept on the sidelines by that 2-1 vote. But we're talking about Northumberland County's 911 Center is interested in taking over the 911 service or the emergency call service for Upper Northumberland County. For as long as I have been a news director or a program director here, that has been handled by Upper Northumberland County has been handled by Union County, and always in a very superlative, state-of-the-art fashion. So this impasse continues. And I think really at the end of each of the conversations we've had, whether it was John Showers or with Vinnie Clausey or Rick Schock, that it became painfully clear that the biggest thing is that this impasse is an impasse that blocks regionalization. That, okay, so this 911 change could take place, so Northumberland County is going to have all of its customers, all of its residents in the fold in the months ahead, and that's fine. But you can't talk about a regional prison if you storm out of the meeting. You can't talk about regionalization of a 911 center. Why should Snyder have a state-of-the-art 911 center plus Union plus Northumberland County? And there's a lot of duplication there. You can't have that conversation if you storm out of the meeting.
Well, it's like the salary issue for the county commissioners. When the Judge Greiner, I believe it was, first ruled against them, one of the commissioners, I believe it was Bridey, called him a parasite to the taxpayers. And then the higher court upheld his decision the whole way down the line, and so they just dropped the suit. I mean, this kind of confrontational government I don't think is good. There has to be a better way to deal with people than constantly confronting them and calling them names, insulting them, or implying that their motives are bad. I mean, I read the letter this morning from the Union County Commissioners, and I thought it was well-reasoned, well-written, and I think it helped me understand the situation a little better. Yet I can understand Northumberland County saying, well, look, if we're going to have to pay somebody for it and we have the capability to do it, why don't we just do it? That way it's all under our control and we're responsible. I don't see any fault to that argument except the one you were making for regionalization. If it is possible to regionalize the dispatching over the 3-county area, then that's something that's worth considering. I'm also on the group looking at what's called FirstNet. The governor asked me to attend a meeting, and I wound up going to these things ever since. But FirstNet is designed to create a nationwide first responders network. The whole idea is to cut down on the things where people can't communicate on fire scenes, accident scenes, even across state and multi-jurisdictional lines. When this thing is done, anybody who pulls up, a fireman, a policeman, any emergency personnel, first responders, will be able to talk to one another, not have to worry about switching frequencies or getting on county control. They'll have a device that lets them communicate with everybody at the same time, and their individual dispatching units. But one of the things that we talked about in those meetings was, this is a wonderful idea, but if we don't deal with the dispatching end of this problem, if we don't solve the disparities between the way Union County might dispatch and Northumberland County might dispatch, that somewhere down the line that'll cause a problem too. So that's some of the things we're working on. And I think regionalization makes a lot of sense, but if Northumberland County has the investment made and they want to do it themselves in this day and age, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't.
Well, and I'm not really opposed to that. Northumberland County does have a decent 911 center. I've been in it. I've been there during floods and other sort of crises type times. So really, you do get superlative work out of there. So no one has a real criticism of what they do. It's really at the commissioner's table where you see the impasse. Remember that you and I are talking about the concept of saving tens of thousands of dollars through eliminating some of the reiteration of things. Having the same coordinators and the same people in each of these counties. You can't even this is the only way we can discuss it, is if you and I do it at this table. You cannot bring Vinnie Clausey to the table to have this conversation about saving money. He'll storm out if he senses that you are trying to stick it to the taxpayers in Northumberland County. It's a misperception to first place, and that's a misaction on the second place, because really nobody's trying to stick it to Northumberland County through this whole conversation.
Union County makes a good argument that, and everyone knows that there is I think most people know there is a fee associated with telephone lines that gets paid to 911. That has not been extended to cell phones. I think it should be.
It will be in the years ahead.
Right. At some point it has to be. Because
it's not on cell phones?
No. And that's
part
of
enough other taxes on it. I'm surprised.
Right? Yeah, that's what you need to know.
Well, that's the problem right now. That's why the money's declining. That's why this has suddenly become an issue. I think what Union County was saying was that at one point the 911 fees we received from Northumberland County were enough to cover the cost of providing the service. Now they aren't. And we need to do something about that. Now, that's not an unfair request, I don't think, by any stretch of the imagination.
No, it isn't. And I think the funny thing about this is Northumberland County knows precisely what it costs to run a 911 center. Union County is interested in negotiating a fair cost. That still involves them taking the bulk of the sort of the foundational expenses, the administration staff. They're not asking that Northumberland County pay for the administrators over at Union County 911. They're not asking that they pay for the hardware in the comm center itself. They're asking them to pay a fee that's commensurate with just picking up the phone, 911, right. What is your emergency, and the dispatching, just what Northumberland County consumes without any of the base coverage.
But here's what gets me. This should be a simple thing. Northumberland County should say, all right, the Union County Commissioners have requested additional funding from us because they say the cost or the amount of money we're sending them for the 911 fee is too low to cover the costs of what they're providing.
We're experiencing also
right.
Will be in there.
So now, as Northumberland County Commissioners, I don't have to call them names. I have to say, my question would be, if I were the chairman of the county commissioners, okay, what is most economical for the taxpayers of this county? Is it to pay the additional cost that Union County asked for, or is providing the service ourselves? Which one is going to be more economically feasible, and are there any other factors that enter into that we should consider in making that determination? Perhaps coverage area, number of people who might have to be hired, not just the basic cost, but the associated costs or the ancillary costs down the line. Now, you can do that. You can make that determination without calling somebody a name. I firmly believe you don't have to start insulting the other counties' commissioners or calling them names to make that decision. It should be a straight, if it is a business decision, make it as a business decision. Find out what your costs are, analyze the thing, find out what it's going to cost to upgrade your system to provide that coverage, and then determine whether it's worth paying Union County to do it for you. And that should be simple.
Right, and if you keep it local, if you choose to stick with individual counties, which is certainly the way every county does it in the state at this time, there's an advantage to that. What happens is if somebody calls from a local area and calls the local 911 center, they get somebody who's familiar with the territory, and they're dispatching local fire police or fire fighters and or an ambulance or whatever it happens to be. And this local knowledge, this sort of a sense of the geography and the volunteer fire companies and ambulance companies and or police that are associated with this territory is critically important stuff. It is possible to make mistakes when dispatching, and I think you increase that chance when you lessen the familiarity with the geography of where you're talking about. So we've seen this time and time again across Pennsylvania. You always hear about this in the AP. A 911 dispatcher sent the ambulance to the wrong house, or a 911 dispatcher sent the fire trucks to the wrong business. It unfortunately does happen, and they're only human, and I'm not saying that this is it's they're at fault or they lacked any certain knowledge, but you increase the odds that can happen again when you increase the territory they cover.
Well, no argument there. You've got a good point. And, of course, everybody went through the state of Pennsylvania a while back and changed all the common names of roads. I mean, I know we had to change a few roads in Snyder County because there were other roads in different parts of the county with the
Creek
same name.
Road.
Right. So those are important things to do. Everything should have a unique name, I guess, to the extent, it's easy to say it's on Green Street in Northumberland County or Green Street in Snyder County. There shouldn't be 5 Green Streets, but, common names like Maple, Elm, Oak Street, all the Main Street, those names are almost everywhere. Market Street, those names are almost everywhere. So you have an issue with that. I agree with you. Absolutely being certain that you're dispatching correctly is critical.
All right, we have a caller on the line. We're talking about 911. Cindy's on the line. Thank you for calling in.
True to my role as a contrarian, I'm holding my AT&T bill for cell phones in my hand. And for each line, we have 3. It's charged $1 for the 911 service fee. Each phone set. So every month we pay $3, one for each phone, which is just like on Verizon. We still have a house phone. That's what I'm calling you on. And it charges me a 911 fee, too.
But it's still not going to the county.
Well, that's what I was wondering, too, because I'm looking at the same thing on my bill. Every line has one, and it's been in effect since July of 2011. And it's an emergency 911 surcharge of $1 per phone.
Right. So we are paying a 911
right, but
fee.
It's not going to the counties.
That's the key. It goes to Verizon, and they can distribute it wherever they think your phone is based, and some of it can go to your county, but it doesn't have to the way the landline does. And that's what Union County is complaining about, is they don't get a big enough piece of that pie. They still get all the landlines, but they don't get a big enough piece of the pie of the 911 cell fee.
When we say
who is getting the 911 cell fee?
Yeah, that
money?
I don't know.
Well, as Mark said, the company that bills it to you, then they have to decide how it's dispensed.
According to the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue, retailers collecting and reporting the prepaid E911 surcharge will be required to file sales tax returns electronically. So they have to. It looks like it's going to the state.
Well, that could be.
Who then distributes it. And see, then this gets into this whole thing about my opinion about people, how funding is disseminated through this country, right? So, and I'm going to switch it to something that I have expertise in, which is school funding. So the truth be told, we pay local taxes, multiple of them, at least 3, in some places 4 and 5, local taxes that are collected locally, and they go to the local school district. Then you also pay taxes that the state collects. And then the state first takes its pound of flesh, as I like to call it in a Shakespearean reference, and then disseminates the money that's left on a favoritism plan, somewhat reflected in the paper today. And then the federal government taxes us, and they take their pound of flesh, and then what's left after they've taken their pound of flesh, then they distribute again in a favoritism system. So, this is the problem when people call for, oh, yes, we don't have, for example, you could have the state collecting this tax. You could have yet another tax on cell phones. But that doesn't mean a penny of it will go to Northumberland. First, the state will charge its pound of flesh, And then what's left, it will decide who gets it based undoubtedly on political considerations, which is why I keep saying to people who think I'm crazy, the closer the taxation is to your house, the better off you are, because that money comes here. When Shamokin Dam taxes me, do you give any of the money to California, Mayor?
No.
Right.
Nor am I going to.
When the federal government taxes me, not one penny may come back here. Every dime I gave may go to California, for example, just picking a state. And that's the myth. So they say, oh, we need to pay more money, but then we do, and then they do, and they charge everyone. But then, the truth be told, it never finds its way back to your community. And in our region, this is, in my opinion, a particularly acute issue that often we get the short shrift in terms of this return funding. You know, there are school districts in this state that get 77% of their money from the state. Many of them are very small, 200 kids, 300 kids, 400 kids. And the state pays 77% of their money, of their funding, versus Selinsgrove that gets about 45, versus some districts like Cumberland Valley down in Cumberland County, and they get in the teens, 15, 16%. Enter that whole favoritism thing.
All right, we got you. Yeah, thank you. It is not a level playing field.
No,
thank you,
not.
Cindy.
And raising taxes doesn't mean a dime will show up in Northumberland. Thanks.
All right, gotcha. Yeah, Kevin.
The Department of Revenue, the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue website says the prepaid E911 surcharge collected will be used to develop, implement, operate, and maintain a fully integrated statewide wireless 911 system. The E911 system will be maintained by the Pennsylvania Emergency Management Agency.
So Harrisburg keeps it.
That's what it looks like.
Thank you. All right.
Well,
that's
PEMA does a great job. Under Director Glenn Cannon, I work with him on our Emergency Communications Committee. PEMA has really developed over the past few years. I mean, it's an outstanding organization to begin with, and it's done even more. So, I mean, if you're talking about who do I trust to use that money wisely, I do trust PEMA.
Well, here's the other side of that, too, with landlines going over to these wireless home phone systems through different wireless companies. Again, that dollar will then go to PEMA and not to the local. My question is, why aren't they sharing?
Well, we'll answer that after we take a break.
All right, we will be right back, and we have an email from one volunteer responder who's informed on this topic, and we'll read that when we return. You're listening to News Radio 1070 WKOK, our main sponsor, the Sunbury Motor Company.
While looking for a vehicle, you know that if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. You get the runaround, gotta go from place to place. Well, you can just skip all of that and go straight to Sunbury Motor Company. Sunbury Motor Company has been satisfying more customers and selling more cars since 1915, so you know they've got it right. No offers that look good on paper or online, and then you get disappointed when you see them in person. Sunbury Motor Company offers a lineup few other auto dealers in the area can compete with. With the inventory of Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln vehicles, there will be no problem finding the right vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. And the friendly, knowledgeable staff ready and able to help you with everything from the test drive to the drive off the lot. See for yourself at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Look for them online anytime at sunburymotors.com.
Now is the time to go to your Kubota dealer and get a brand new Kubota M-Series tractor during Kubota's Gear Up and Go sales event. If you're thinking about a rugged utility tractor and the year-round comfort of a Grand X-Cab, then a new Kubota has your name on it. With a smooth-running diesel engine and IntelliShift transmission, your Kubota dealer is the place to start. Right now, get your own Kubota M-Series tractor for 0 down and 0% financing for up to 60 months. So for a great deal, think orange at the Kubota Gear Up and Go sales event. For more information or to find a participating dealer, go to Kubota.com.
0 down, 0% APR financing for terms up to 60 months on selected equipment now through September 30th, 2014. Not available for rental national accounts or government customers. 0% APR low rate financing not available with instant rebate offers. Financing available through Kubota Credit Corporation USA subject to credit approval. Other exceptions may apply. For more information, call toll-free 1-888-465-8268.
The Steelers are coming off a sorry performance against the Eagles in their preseason game. Neil Coulon will be here to talk about the Steelers' performance. That's today, 3 to 5, News Radio 1070, WKOK.
Alrighty, thank you, Steve Jones. Talking about the Steelers' poor performance is what we're going to be talking about, and why Kevin's psyche is so negatively injured by a poor performing team that he favors. You're listening to On the Mark. We have open phones right now. We're talking about 911, 1-800-795-9565. That's 1-800-795-9565. One of our listeners, who's a volunteer firefighter, says the cell phone money goes to PEMA, and then each 911 center can apply for a share of the pot. I did read today's Daily Item, and he says, did you notice that Bridie said in his letter to the editor recently that he'd support federal state legislation to put a 911 fee on cell phones? Duh, we've had that for 10 or more years.
Yeah, I don't support another dollar in my cell phone bill, but I do support that dollar maybe getting split.
Well, look at it this way, Kevin. Mark and I were talking off air. I have a track phone. I don't pay a monthly fee. I buy a card when I need time or minutes.
But isn't that fee included with the card
there is
as
a
well?
There is a card fee. Initially, but I mean, if I use that card over 6 months, I buy one with a lot of minutes on it. I don't pay a proportionate fee.
You're still not paying it monthly.
Well, it's not proportionate to the amount of time I buy. I could buy 7 hours and pay the same $1 fee, right?
He's sticking it to us.
That's right.
So, I just know that somewhere along the line, I'm going to get taxed again somehow, some way.
Well, yeah, but the 911 centers are important. I mean, your life could be on the line at some point. If I'm going to cut expenses and cut corners, I'm not going to do it with a 911 system.
My question, though, Joe, is why do we have to have the extra dollar fee? Can't we figure out another way to do it?
I don't know. I can't answer that in the time we have left.
How do we do it before the dollar?
We didn't. You just paid for it out of taxes.
Kevin's going to cure all known diseases and fix the 911 system in 10 seconds. You're listening to News Radio 1070 WKOK Sunbury.
CBS News. I'm Dave Barrett. It's not a final report, but a Veterans Affairs memo says no deaths resulted from treatment delays at VA facilities in Phoenix. Earlier, there were claims that up to 40 people may have died while waiting for appointments. President Obama travels to Charlotte, North Carolina today, and he'll speak to veterans. Some specifics now from White House correspondent Peter Mayer, who joins us live.
Right, Dave. President Obama will use new executive actions to update the administration's response to the VA healthcare controversy. He will announce new moves to improve access to mental health care for veterans and active duty military personnel. These efforts include improvements to suicide prevention and post-traumatic stress treatments. The White House says Mr. Obama will outline priorities to protect the rights of veterans and the disability claims backlog.
The Obama administration gives approval to conduct aerial surveillance over Syria to seek out terrorist targets.
These reconnaissance flights will be flown by both manned and unmanned aircraft. This is the first step toward launching airstrikes against ISIS in Syria.
That's CBS's David Martin at the Pentagon. You could find something tasty from a Canadian maple donut to a honey cruller to the ultimate bacon cheeseburger with a side of chicken fries. Tim Hortons Donuts is being bought by Burger King. Company headquarters would go north of the border to Ontario, Canada. CBS business analyst Jill Schlesinger.
The reason that this deal is starting to make a lot of sense for Burger King is that it is now going to be a Canadian company that will pay a lower effective corporate tax rate than it would here in the United States.
Orders for durable goods, those products that may last 3 years or more, rose 22.6% last month. It looks like consumers are being more responsible when they use plastic. Correspondent Vicki Barker has been looking into that. She's live with us now.
Credit reporting agency TransUnion says the rate of credit card payments at least 90 days overdue fell to 1.16% in the 3 months ending in June. During the depths of the recession 5 years ago, more than 3% of American credit card holders were delinquent. Credit card companies are also taking on new customers with less than perfect credit scores, and many are also raising credit limits for existing customers. One more sign of their faith in the recovery. Dave?
It's time to channel surf for last night's winners. Correspondent Steve Futterman in L.A.
The Emmy winner and still champion is
Breaking Bad.
Won the top Emmy Award Best Drama Series for a second straight year. It wasn't the only repeat winner.
Modern Family
won its fifth straight Best Comedy Series Emmy. That ties a record. Acting winners included Bryan Cranston, Juliana Margulies, Jim Parsons, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. The Emmy show also featured a moving tribute to Robin Williams.
On Wall Street this Tuesday morning, a half hour before the opening bell, S&P futures are up a couple of points. Dow futures are plus 20. NASDAQ futures up 6. This is CBS News.
You've been thinking about moving over to solar power for your home. So are a lot of other people, which is why some power companies are pushing for extra fees to make up the difference. Is it finally happening? Is solar power actually becoming a threat to the old power conglomerates? Don't fund Big Power's losses while everybody else goes solar. Get caught in the middle or go with a trusted local solar company and actually own it. And reduce your energy bill with no down payment, interest, or payments for a whole year. Get tax breaks and big monthly energy savings. Avoid falling behind and paying extra. Don't be the last one in line. Our nation's power supplies are shifting. Wait too long and you may wind up paying for it. Want to completely eliminate your power bill? Get all the tax incentives you're entitled to while you still can. And do it locally because local is accountable and we finance. Call 1-800-MY-SOLAR for a free in-home assessment. 1-800-MY-SOLAR.
My home, my savings, 1-800-MY-SOLAR.
Women got the right to vote 94 years ago, but, as CBS's Dan Raviv explains, equality is relative.
A researcher for Wallet Hub, Richie Bernardo, did a study finding which states come closest to equality for women, meaning not just earnings from work, but
different areas like education and health and political representation.
Extra points for states that have women as both their U.S. senators, like California, which is number 12 overall in this ranking. Number 1 is Hawaii, number 2, New York. Bernardo says this survey had no political goal, but nearly all the top states are dominated by Democrats. They're blue states.
And the ones at the bottom tend to be red states.
Numbers 49 and 50, Utah and Wyoming. Dan Raviv, CBS News.
It's now Hurricane Cristobal. With 75-mile-an-hour sustained winds, it's heading towards Bermuda. It caused significant flooding in the Caribbean. Since last weekend, Turks and Caicos got a foot of rain. Dave Barrett, CBS News.
They say every healthy relationship should have a balance of predictability and spontaneity. In fact, it is that assurance of security that makes the spontaneous possible. Your relationship with your car should be a little like that too. With our new industry-leading unlimited mileage warranty, your certified pre-owned Mercedes-Benz instills a sense of confidence. You drive away knowing that you can keep driving for up to 3 years and never have to worry about the miles. Add to that our new complimentary prepaid maintenance on select models, and your certified pre-owned Mercedes-Benz becomes the ultimate carefree escape vehicle. Only during the Mercedes-Benz Certified Pre-Owned Sales event, going on now through September 2nd, can you also take advantage of a 2-month payment credit on many models, plus 3 months of Sirius XM satellite radio. So hurry in today. It might just be the most predictable, spur-of-the-moment decision you've ever made.
See your authorized Mercedes-Benz dealer for complete details and limitations on certified pre-owned warranties.
Newsradio 1070 WKOK presents On the Mark. It's a chance to voice your opinion on the events that affect life in the Susquehanna Valley. Call 1-800-795-9565 or email onthemark@wkok.com. Now, here are your hosts for On the Mark, Mark Lawrence and Joe McGranaghan.
Welcome back.
Go ahead.
You weren't fast enough this morning. Welcome back to On the Mark. I'm Mark Lawrence, along with Joe McGranaghan, the world's greatest engineer, Kevin Hurt. Oh, no, wait a second. I'm not Mark Lawrence. I'm Joe McGranaghan. You're Mark Lawrence. I was just doing your part.
Confused.
We should switch roles for a day. You be me, I'll be you.
Let's not say we did.
Okay. We have a caller to start the second part of the program. Malcolm, you're on the mark. Good morning.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you this morning?
Very well. And you, sir?
I'm doing well. I tuned into some of the discussion on the 911 fees and thought I would just shed some light on it if you had any questions specific to that. I can tell you that the current legislation that we have is out of Act 78 and Act 56. So there's actually two different bills that went through the State House and Senate and was signed by the governor years ago that established the fees on landlines and also on cell phones. And those fees do go to PEMA. They are collected by the providers. They are sent to PEMA, and every year our counties submit applications for those funds. And they're distributed by a call ratio volume. So if your calls, if you had 56% of your calls coming in from cell phones, you would 56% of that funding could be recouped by going to the cell phone fee. And then the other portion would be based on your landline usage. What has been a challenge for the counties and has partially been brought up by you gentlemen is that there's a decline in the number of people that have landlines. So those fees that are collected on that side have continually gone down. But we're still getting calls from landline phones. So the formula makes it somewhat complicated, and I don't know if that helps you gentlemen at all with this discussion, but there is a portion of those fees that is retained by PEMA to do statewide operations and to fund their own operations in Harrisburg.
I guess my question is, as a taxpayer, if they already have a line if PEMA already has a line in the budget, why am I paying the $1 per phone to PEMA and then the local county's getting a small portion of that?
No,
why not just get the whole $1 and give it to the county you live in?
I would prefer that. However, we do get the large volume of that $1. They do retain a portion to administer the funds, which there
so
is
it's
currently
a finder's
legislation actually being talked about. I don't know if you gentlemen knew this, but June 30th was actually the end of those two pieces of legislation, but they were reauthorized for another year. The County Commissioners Association is in active negotiations with PEMA, the governor's office, and the legislative branch to come up with another plan. And rather than having two separate laws that talk about different funding streams, there's also another one that hasn't come up in discussion, is the Voice over Internet Protocol line. And those of you that use Vonage, for example, or some other products, that is actually a VoIP phone. So those phones at first, when they first started to come into play in the area, there were no taxes on those types of phones, but you could still get the service of a 911 call just like anyone on a cell phone or another landline. So there was a piece of legislation that addressed that. So the discussion now is to consolidate those three and also just generally streamline the process. And I've been a vocal person trying to say, hey, we need to make sure that this goes to the counties. We're providing the service, we're making sure it's operating, and we should make sure that we're getting as much of that as possible.
Well, there's nothing more important, in my opinion, than the 911 service that's provided, because, I mean, literally, your life, my life, our families' lives could depend on it working and working well and working promptly. So if I'm going to start cutting funding for something, it's not going to be 911. But I am concerned about a level playing field here. And you're right, the Vonage users, things like Magic Jack. I mean, there's so many different technologies now that weren't in existence 5 or 6 years ago, and we're not keeping pace legislatively with those, are we?
It's always, you're right, Joe, it usually takes several years before we have a reaction to a new technology, and I think that's what this new bill, the discussions that I've been in on, the bill would actually try to say a new technology, so it wouldn't be specific to VoIP, but anyone who had this type of access would be paying the same level fee like you mentioned. And even right now when we're talking about the cell phones versus the landline, that the fee is different, and that's something that many taxpayers say, well, that's not quite fair. The other thing that's sort of on the minds of people and is a concern for those in the 911 industry is some people are trying to report things on Facebook or Twitter. You know, they'll see things, and there's a discussion, will that someday be another way you can contact the 911 center? So those are all worries that I guess future technologies, we don't know what's next, and what's the next way someone's going to try to contact 911.
Well, there's another issue, too. I've had occasion to call 911 from time to time, and as you know, I'm a Snyder County resident, and I have dialed 911, and I've wound up speaking to Northumberland County, even though I'm calling about an emergency in Snyder County, and I'm in Snyder County. For some reason, my cell phone registers as being in Northumberland County, and then I have to wait while I'm transferred to Snyder County, which takes a period of time. And in both the instances that I've had occasion to call 911, by the time I finally got transferred to Northumberland or to Snyder County, someone else had already called in. So, I mean, the transfer of the call between the jurisdictions takes time. It seems to me that there should be some system in place that when you place a 911 call in Snyder County, you get Snyder County 911.
And Joe, the one thing that's a problem with that, and we do see that occasionally, is if the cell tower that your phone is bouncing to is in Northumberland County, that creates the problem. And it makes perfect sense that if you're in Shamokin Dam, that the closest tower to you could be on the other side of the river and causing that problem. It is difficult, and we do get a fair amount of Northumberland County calls as well. And we do try to transfer them as quickly as possible, but that does happen with cell phones. It will not happen with a landline. Fortunately, those things have worked themselves out over the years that it's very sophisticated in knowing where the call's coming from, and actually the dispatcher will see on a map on their computer screen where the call's being made. But the cell phone still, because of where the towers are located, sometimes there are the wrong county gets the call initially.
Well, and because, like you said, most of the time you're on a different tower than you were calling from, than your residence or than your location, it gets routed wrong. But there's really no way to do that unless you have GPS on your phone and GPS active, or if caller ID becomes active on cell phones, because right now caller ID doesn't exist on cell phones, just the ID of the number, not who's calling or the location
each
of the
cell
call.
phone has a unique identifier, does it not?
They can, Joe, but because of we don't know where you're traveling at any given time, it'll your phone typically looks for the closest tower or the best signal when you're driving or even when you're at home. And if that best signal happens to be across the river, that's where it bounces to. Now, they can still triangulate your cell phone location by looking at multiple towers, and they basically ping your phone, but those are typically only used if it's a law enforcement issue where we're trying to track someone down.
Like, depending on where you are in Montour County, you may actually be on a Shamokin Tower, which is Northumberland County.
Sure.
I got a question for you. Tell me about this idea of a regional conversation. Obviously, you can't have this discussion with Northumberland County, but you could talk to Mifflin or Juniata or Perry County, and certainly Union County, of course, a very forward-thinking organization. Do we have these conversations yet where we talk about some regionalization?
We should point out that we're speaking to Snyder County Commissioner Malcolm Derk. Malcolm, sorry.
Thank you. No, that's fine. Thank you for the clarifier, too, so folks know. I would say it does happen. We have, in Snyder County, it hasn't had a whole lot of play in great news splashes, but we have had conversations, and so have other counties, and we're actually continuing those dialogues today. One of the difficulties we have is the counties are organized in terrorism task force regions, okay? And this is going to get very technical, and certainly we could have a whole show on 911. But we are actually lumped together with Juniata, Perry, Mifflin, in Snyder County. The other regions, Union County is actually lumped in a separate task force, and Northumberland County is in another one. We're in like a dividing area here, even though many times we have more in common with folks in the to the north of us in Union County. We're actually in two separate regions. So the one reason I wanted to say that is because there are funding mechanisms that specifically go to the regions, but we have engaged with those lower counties to do some overlap. And for example, with the one county right now, we have a tower that is shared, and that helps us both because we don't have to actually both build our own towers, both have the infrastructure to support those towers, and we're working with them also to do a backup system that they could actually answer all of our calls and vice versa.
That's Mifflin County?
That's correct, if something were to happen. So that is ongoing with Mifflin, but we are also talking right now, it's very preliminary, is another discussion with Union and Montour and Columbia County. That discussion, we'll see where that ends, but we are always looking at different ways. The big cost driver for 911s is the phones and the software, CAD software, for example. That is the map that I talked about.
Computer-aided dispatch.
The dispatch, computer-aided dispatch. Those are very expensive. The phone systems are the largest expense. It could be easily $400,000 for a phone system, or to upgrade to a new phone system.
Is that a one-time expense, Malcolm, or is that not?
It's not. It's ongoing. It's one time. You might be able to get by, I'm going to guess, 10 years off of one system. Maybe not even 10 years that you'll get out of that system, because technology is always changing. And for example, if you had an old system, you may not be able to get those voice over internet protocol calls. So that's why there are needed upgrades. And that's what's scary on our side is certainly $400,000 is a lot of money for a small county, but there are studies going on right now, and the one I talked about with our terrorism task force is what types of things like that can we buy one of them and all of us share it. And we're getting to a point where those technologies exist where it's possible to share some of those things, and we have to figure out what those things are and where we would locate them.
Isn't regionalization difficult? I mean, like you're saying you're working with Mifflin County on something, yet you are closer politically, I would say, and certainly in terms of geography to Union County than you are necessarily the far end of Mifflin County.
Well, and it differs depending on where you live in the county. If you look at someone who lives in rural Richfield, they do most of their shopping in Lewistown. They have more in common, as you would say, with folks out there. Or if you're in McClure, that's what's difficult in any county is depending on where you live in that county, you may align yourself more with one county over another. But you're right, we already have quite a few cooperative efforts with Union County. So, our jail frequently houses many of Union County inmates just because of the size of their facility. But we also sit on joinder boards for USTA, the Community Action Agency, also CMSU, for example. We share with our northern and eastern friends in other counties. So you're right. It depends on what structure we're looking at, but we do have things in common with all the counties around us.
One of the arguments that we've heard bounce back and forth is that some counties, like Montour, for example, shouldn't have their own 911 system because they're a small county. If the counties aren't the right way to break it down geographically, what might be?
Well, and it is difficult because I think Mark mentioned earlier that it's important for the dispatchers to have familiarity with the area they're dispatching. I wouldn't debate that. I do think it's important. But what is the right size? And like I said before, you may not actually have to close a 911 dispatcher hub, but you may be able to share that $400,000 purchase among 4 counties. And wouldn't that be nice? Yeah. Rather than having 4 different counties pay for $400,000 worth of equipment individually, they can just get one. That's I think what we're seeing more of. We did see the state police went to a statewide dispatching system, and they went away from that very quickly. And I think probably much of that is because of what Mark said is you want to have some familiarity with the area you're dispatching. I don't know what the right size of a 911 center is. Certainly we have some counties in Lehigh Valley that have just massive size counties. Lancaster County is a huge county if you think about the size of our county in comparison geographically, and they're doing it fine there. So could there be some savings by joining forces? There could be. I'm not sure if I know the right answer yet on how big a dispatching area should be.
When a dollar comes into the Snyder County General Fund and gets distributed to all of these different entities, how much of that is spent absolutely positively as wisely as it could possibly be versus how much is hampered by maybe a territory that's set up for terrorism, or maybe a territory that's set up for some other particular area, or set up for overlap involving you're doing the same thing Snyder County is, or maybe a municipality is doing the same thing? How much of that is spent absolutely positively as wisely as it possibly could be?
You know, I would say, Mark, there are certain efficiencies that we at the county level have that a larger agency doesn't have. All right, so I would say that if you look at statewide payrolls, oftentimes they get larger faster because they're dealing with a system that's looking at Philadelphia wages, right? But there's people working in Harrisburg. In Snyder County, we can say what is the labor market actually here. So we have flexibility there by being the size we are. I can't answer your question 100%, but we try the best we can to be efficient with every dollar we spend. Certainly, some things are hampered by the way we are aligned statewide. Different laws set up different groupings, and it doesn't always make sense to me. But we are in those, just like we're in a career link system we're tied to the northern counties that are north of Snyder County, but there is another system in the Harrisburg area. So it is difficult to decide what area we're drawn into. Just like congressional reapportionment, legislative reapportionment, you never know, and the folks that are charged with grouping counties, it's a difficult task. But I feel that in Snyder County, we certainly have more in common with Union County in all the boards that we're on, and I would continue to work with them on things, and we have worked well together in the past.
All right, fantastic. Listen, come and visit us. I know we're going to see Joe next week, so we'd love to hear from you in the weeks and months ahead. Joe's here on Tuesday and Thursdays if you want the municipal expert that's here, and if free thinking and...
the first Joe you're referring to was Kantz.
Right.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
Joe
the second
McGranaghan.
Joe.
Yeah.
And Malcolm Derk is the county commissioner we're speaking to at the moment.
Right. So, but those are your options. But thank you very much, Malcolm. We really
Thanks, Malcolm.
appreciate your insights.
No problem.
Take care.
Very much appreciated. Malcolm Derk, Snyder County Commissioner.
It's always nice to hear somebody who actually does have a good handle on it.
Right. Somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Knows what they're talking about.
Unlike
right?
me. Okay.
Or us.
Point taken. All righty. We're going to take a quick break, but we will come back with some very speedy news headlines when we return. We'd love to have you on the other side. We're talking about Northumberland County and Union County 911 was the springboard, but now we're talking about 911 in general. And I keep poking at this with the concept of regionalization. If we could somehow hit the municipal reset button in Pennsylvania, how would we look? 1-800-795-9565 is the toll-free line. Lenape Solar, email in-basket open, email on the market up to WKOK.com. And our main sponsor is the Sunbury Motor Company.
While looking for a vehicle, you know that if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. You get the runaround, gotta go from place to place. Well, you can just skip all of that and go straight to Sunbury Motor Company. Sunbury Motor Company has been satisfying more customers and selling more cars since 1915, so you know they've got it right. No offers that look good on paper or online, and then you get disappointed when you see them in person. Sunbury Motor Company offers a lineup few other auto dealers in the area can compete with. With the inventory of Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln vehicles, there will be no problem finding the right vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. And the friendly, knowledgeable staff's ready and able to help you with everything from the test drive to the drive off the lot. See for yourself at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Look for them online anytime at sunburymotors.com.
This is Tanya Diddy. If you've been wondering how you can save money and the environment for the future, then all you have to do is look to the sun. Let Lenape Solar enlighten you. Lenape Solar installs residential and commercial solar systems, each custom designed to meet your individual needs. And we're committed to buy American products. Making an investment in a solar system today is much more affordable than it was 2 to 3 years ago. The payback is much quicker. You can trust the experts at Lenape Solar to help enlighten you to a brighter tomorrow, because we're committed to you and to our community. Call us at 286-1496 and start saving today.
Susquehanna Valley RV.
There's still plenty of summer left, plus fall to look forward to in making those important memories with family and friends in your Susquehanna Valley RV. We have a great selection of pre-enjoyed pop-ups, hybrids, Class A and C motorhomes, travel trailers, and fifth-wheel models with and without slide-outs. As our family grows at Susquehanna Valley RV, there's no better time than now to get camping. Financing is available on all our pre-owned inventory. Make memories you'll cherish for years to come with late summer fall camping. Susquehanna Valley RV on Route 11, Bloomsburg.
We'll make it easy to find adventure. So get up, get out, and get away. There's an exciting new world waiting for you at Susquehanna Valley RV. A camper's best friend.
Join the discussion about news, sports, and more by following News Radio 1070 WKOK on Facebook. You'll get breaking news updates, plus stories where you can weigh in with your opinions. Follow the news and let your voice be heard. Plus, win prizes on our Facebook-only contests. Follow us on Facebook today and join the discussion with News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Somebody call now.
All right, appropriate dance music. Thank you very much, Kevin Hurt. Very much appreciated.
I thought he was coming back with emergency.
We're coming back on a segment where we're talking about municipal services and 911. The webcam is up and running. Do please check it out. Lenape Solar, email in basket open. Email on the market, WKOK.com. Lenape Solar, fastest growing solar company in the valley. Find out why, lenapesolar.com. They would just love to answer all of your cues. And On the Mark, brought to you by the Sunbury Motor Company, family-owned dealership since 1915. 4th Street in Sunbury, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Kevin is driving what is by far, bar none, the coolest car in the parking lot.
Yeah, there's no, and it's the coolest car I've ever driven. I think it's the coolest thing I've ever been in. It actually makes me look cool.
Well, what is
it?
it?
Which is actually difficult to do. It's the 5-star crash safety rated Kia Soul, where you can get lease payments that are really low because it has actually a higher residual value than most of the subcompact utility vehicles. So you have lower lease payments, higher resale values, and of course, if you want to buy it, and then decide for some reason you want to trade it in on another Soul later on, you actually have a very, very good value left on your vehicle when you're ready to trade it in
So
on something newer.
With the Soul you have.
Exactly. You can actually have a brand new
anybody
Soul.
that needed a new Soul, it's the Kevin.
You can actually have a brand new Soul. 5 years, 60,000-mile bumper-to-bumper warranty on Kias and the Kia Soul. Check it out at Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf.
Yeah, I'd like to underscore what he says. There is no car company out there that rewards loyalty like Kia and Sunbury Motors. They will literally give you another Kia Soul when you take in the old one and trade it. All right, so maybe that's an exaggeration, but everything they say is true. And
Mark's wanted to trade his Soul for a long time. He sold it many times over, but never traded
He's in the business of trying to help other people with theirs.
Right.
Some weekends.
Right, that's true. You can see me in the pulpit dispensing unsound
Advice.
spiritual advice. That's right. SunburyMotors.com, the main website.
They don't call you shaky for nothing.
That's right. SunburyMotors.com, our main website. 1-800-795-9565, the toll-free line. We're talking 911 municipal services, and could we somehow hit the reset button in Pennsylvania, eliminate all these municipal boundaries? How would we divvy ourselves up if we had the choice to do it over? And we're talking about 911 and cell service. Good morning, Robert. Thanks for calling in from Mifflinburg. You're on the mark.
Okay, thank you, guys. I was away from the radio for a few minutes, and I missed getting. I'm looking at my Windstream telephone service I have in Mifflinburg. Used to be Buffalo Valley, and it says PSETA 911 fee Union. They designate the $1.50 to Union County, and then on my Verizon, which I have for my wireless, it's like goes to the state.
Right.
And I'm wondering if the agencies that provide telephone service in the counties that they're located couldn't designate it like Windstream does for Union County.
Well, they could, but they don't currently.
I understand, and it's too bad that our local county commissioners, not all of them, but could legislate instead of levitate. And that on the federal, it just seems like we can all work together. Why the controversies? And I understand you guys do a wonderful job of bringing the news to us. And I just wanted to say, Union County Windstream does designate 911 fees to Union County. $1.50.
We got you. Well, thank you very much.
Hey, you're welcome. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thanks for the kind words. One of our listeners, Michelle, might not have been paying attention. I think we might have asked this question, but says, I'm sure that when you buy minutes on a track phone, there is a $1 fee for 911 at the time of purchase.
And she's right, there is. But the question is, phone services like that, it's not proportionate. If you get a bill every month for a phone service, you pay $1 every month. I buy a large card. The fee that I pay doesn't go up based on the number of minutes I purchase. And that's what I basically do. I purchase minutes and days of usage.
Well, you can buy a card that's actually good for an entire year.
Yes, you can.
And only pay that fee once instead of 12 times.
That's right. Well, you don't even pay the whole fee. You pay the $1.
That's what I mean. No, you pay that $1 fee once instead of 12 times once each month.
So I save $11 a year by having a track phone. But then my phone isn't smart.
Feel the savings.
All right. One of our listeners sends us a note. Jack says, as an owner of a non-working cell phone, I can actually dial 112 and get a regional 911 center. I had this discussion on Facebook through a Snopes group. Many people don't know about this, but now I'm not sure of the entire service area. But from my short conversation with the responder, they said it goes by the regional areas. Just saying, I find it would be easier to dial 112 in a difficult situation rather than 911, says Jack.
Well, if you pick up an old phone, and actually I have an old cell phone that we had purchased for my wife's mother, that she no longer uses, and I had stored it and put it away, and I turned it on the other day and it said emergency calls only. You know, I guess you can make an emergency call with any old cell phone.
Right, yeah, they still work.
Yeah, you can. There's a special button on some phones that are emergent that's listed as emergency and will automatically dial 911 with one button.
Except an analog phone won't work. David, you are on the mark. Thanks for waiting a moment. You're on the mark.
Good morning. I have a question on this cell phone tax then that I have two boys that were in this. One was in the Air Force, one was in the Army. And so one has a cell phone from Florida and the other has a cell phone from North Carolina. And they've had these same phones for, roughly 10 years, 11 years. But they're both back in Pennsylvania now. They still use the same phone numbers. So where does their tax go?
Well, aren't they paying every time they call someone locally? Every time they call someone locally, Dave, aren't they making a long-distance call?
Not with a cell phone.
No, I mean, someone calls them. But, I mean, if you call them, you're calling, in effect, wherever they lived before, right?
Right.
Even though they're 2 feet away from you.
Yep. Yeah, I'm calling a Florida or North Carolina phone number, they might be, right on the other side of the road.
Well, why wouldn't they change? When they came back, why wouldn't they change numbers? Or
why would you?
Because everybody they've had contact with for 10 years of the service, why he has that number.
Well, and the other reason is most cell phone plans now have unlimited calling and no long distance. So you don't have to worry about dialing long distance with a cell phone.
I'm talking about from the other end.
No,
I'm calling from the landline.
And what I'm saying is most people are using a cell phone on the other side calling. Listen, landline usage has dropped significantly over the last 2 years alone.
Well, I still have one.
I know when my parents retired, and they would spend 4 or 5 months a year traveling with their camper. So they did away with the house phone, the landline, but used that same number on their cell phone because they'd had that number for 30 years. And so now all they have is a cell phone, but it's the same number that was the landline. But, I mean, they're in Florida, but I'm still calling a usual phone number. Or they may be in California, and I'm still calling a usual phone number.
Yeah, well, it's improved from the old days when there were roaming charges. I guess they don't have those anymore.
Exactly. They don't really exist anymore either, unless you're out of the country.
Yeah, depending on what your plans are, there's plans out there for your phone where, you don't have a roaming charge. There's no long distance charge. There's unlimited charges for this or unlimited usage for this and that. And so depending on what your stuff is, and that's the way with the boys, both of them have been all over the world, and they have contacts all over the world with people that are still in the service, people that have gotten out and went back to their different areas of the world, areas of the United States and so forth. And that's how these guys all stay in contact. They still have the same number that they've been using for the last 10 years.
But, Dave, it does make it obvious that something is going to have to be done with respect to how the that FCC fee is dealt, or the 911 fee is split up with cell phones. It doesn't seem fair it should all go to the state.
I was asking about that, okay, by putting a tax on the phone, how is that actually helping the county where somebody's at? Because, now, like, I'm up here in Montourville, so fine. But we have a lot of influx with the gas company workers and so forth that are, you see license plates all over Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, Alabama, and on and on. So these guys are living here now, and their families are living here, a lot of them. But I'm sure they're still using their cell phones from wherever they came from, and they'll keep that same number the next area that they go to work in.
Well, you're in Montoursville, right?
Yeah.
Well, say hello to Mayor Doran for me, and thanks for calling.
All right.
Take care, Dave.
Have a great day.
You too.
Joe,
very much.
Just to give you an idea of the landline situation, 1 in 3 households have a landline phone. That was as of
1 in 3.
2013.
1 in 3.
And that number is dropping significantly year to year, down almost 10% every year.
Well, then it would seem to me with that reduction, it should be possible to keep your old phone number in a lot of cases.
It is.
On cell phones?
Right.
No, I'm talking about changing if I get rid of my home phone number, I want my cell phone number to be what my home phone number was. That can be done?
You could port.
That's what I'm asking for.
I think you can port that number. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm 75% sure you can port that number on a cell phone.
Port that number. Explain port. Port to me is the left-hand side of a boat.
Porting your number is a way that you can transfer your one number to another phone.
Port is fine wine.
If you change,
all right, but in your opinion, to me, it's the left side of a boat.
If you change,
obviously you're a drinker and I'm a boater.
If you change cell phone companies, for instance, you can port your current cell phone number to another cell phone. You can actually port a landline to a cell phone as well, because I've done that.
All right, 1-800-795-9565. Another quickie break. We return. We're talking about regionalization and how to save a buck. Could we just hit the reset button in Pennsylvania and make municipal government make sense? 1-800-795-9565 is our telephone number. And Lenape Solar email in basket is open on the market at WKOK.com, and we will be right back.
As a professional driver, I've hauled everything from hogs to high heels. But this year, I've been touring a Red Roof remodeled next-gen room across America, showing folks their totally new, modern, upscale rooms. From coast to coast, people said, wow, over and over, wow. Everywhere we went, wow. I never got that reaction hauling hogs. This summer, stay 2 separate times and get a free night. Visit redroof.com for details and get the app, Red Roof and Red Roof Plus. Add some wow to your stay.
Students, when I call the reason for your absences throughout the years, please exit the auditorium without your high school diploma. Too tired, family trip, sick day, starting the holidays early.
Starting in the 6th grade, students who miss 18 days or more of school in a year for any reason will fall behind and risk not graduating high school. How many days of school has your child missed this year? Absences add up. Keep track at boostattendance.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Army and the Ad Council.
Here's a bright idea. Why not use light to carry billions of bits of data per second, making network connections hundreds of times faster and much more reliable? That's just what PenTeledata's fiber optic network does. And we've invested in over 9,000 miles throughout our communities, connecting schools, banks, healthcare networks, and even wireless towers that enable your smartphone to be, well, smart. Know what else is smart? Connecting your business to our fiber network. See the light with PenTeledata, your recommended source of fiber.
Would you trust a blocked artery?
To a plumber? Then why trust the health of your network to outdated technology? Connect at the speed of light with Penteledata's state-of-the-art true fiber optic network, offering the smartest, most reliable data connections to keep operations running stronger than ever before. That's why more doctors and business professionals trust their company to Penteledata. When choosing a provider, get a second opinion. You'll be glad you did. Penteledata, your recommended source of fiber.
Hi, I'm Megan from Selinsgrove, and even though I'm 10, I know the number one cause of car crashes in the U.S. is distracted driving. Sunbury Broadcasting Corporation and Selinsgrove Ford want you to eliminate the distractions in your vehicle. Secure your passengers and equipment, turn down the music, and turn off the cell phone. This message brought to you by the stations of Sunbury Broadcasting Corporation, including Newsradio 1070, WKOK, and Selinsgrove Ford, proud supporters of Susquehanna Smart Drive.
The Steelers are coming off a sorry performance against the Eagles in their preseason game. Neil Coulon will be here to talk about the Steelers' performance. That's today, 3 to 5, News Radio 1070, WKOK.
It's all about soul. It's all about faith and a deeper devotion.
All right.
It's all about soul.
The Kia Soul. We're talking about very, very sleek, ultra-warranted vehicle that will last any young man or young woman a long time out there. And they do have a lot of incentives at the Sunbury Motor Company to make sure that you keep coming back to get a new Soul, which, as you've plainly identified, I could probably really use.
It's too bad they don't make a car called the Body, and then if you have two cars, Body and Soul.
That would be fun. And you could keep them in your port.
Right, port them.
The port beside your house.
I can't believe I taught Joe a new word. Of all the years of learning from Joe, I've actually taught Joe something.
What word was that?
I knew what port meant from a phone standpoint, but I was wondering whether our listeners did.
Oh, port. It's short for portable.
Cover.
It's
portable,
it's an abbreviation for portable. He's just being hip. The water tower came down yesterday on the Pennsylvania House site, making way for Meridian to put a retail location there. Unfortunately, you don't get to see any video of this after the thing was delayed for several hours. Instead of doing the countdown, the all clear and the horns, they just hit the blast at the appropriate moment, and literally no one was ready. Everyone who was there saw it, but no one caught it on video because nobody had sort of the countdown preparation. But nonetheless, the water tower is down. Now, we've posted a WKOK.com video for you to see, and it is interviews. It's not the actual collapsification of the tower, but you can see that there. One other note today, pediatricians are sending a back-to-school message to parents. Let your teenagers sleep. In a new policy statement in the journal Pediatrics, the American Academy of Pediatrics says delaying the start of the school day till at least 8:30 a.m. for teens would be a good idea. It would help curb their lack of sleep, which has been linked to poor health, bad grades, car crashes, and depression and suicide. The influential group says studies have found that most U.S. students in middle school and high school do not get the recommended 8.5 to 9.5 hours of school sleep on school nights. And the executive director of the association says later times for teens is an issue of cost, though, because bus drivers would have to be rerouted. Later start times would mean later dismissal times, affecting sports practices, coaching,
Here's a thought.
games,
Why don't they go to bed early?
after school jobs, and homework time. I think there's something about getting up at 6 that's different than getting up at 8, whether you've had 8 hours of sleep or not.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, wait a minute. You're saying getting up at 8, or they're going to start the school year at 8?
8:30.
Let's see. Start the school day at 8:30 at the earliest.
He's going to have to get up a lot earlier than 8, though.
Right.
Yeah, you'd have to get up around 7 o'clock.
7:30 at the latest.
Well, depending on how long your bus trip is. Some of these kids ride the bus for 40, 50 minutes a day.
Exactly.
But I think your circadian rhythm calls for you to be asleep by about 10 or 11 p.m. and up at 8-ish. So that is what they're talking about, is sort of picking this ideal time in our light-dark cycle for the sleep to end, which would be about 8,
How about
7:30,
college
8.
kids who do all-nighters before tests?
I don't think that's an ideal way to study unless you want to forget.
In my days, we used to buy boxes of No-Dos.
Did you?
Is 7
They don't
o'clock?
sell that anymore, I don't think.
No,
it's
now
Red Bull now, right?
Now it's coffee and Red Bull, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Is 7 o'clock 8-ish?
No. I think 7 is 7.
Yeah, so that's what I thought too. Because I heard that story yesterday, and I thought you're still going to have to get up at 7 o'clock. You're changing it 1 hour. I just don't
Not
see
gonna
that
make
much
enough
of it. No.
Well, that's why the pediatric folks say at least 8:30, but maybe 9 or 10 would be closer to ideal.
Well, how about getting them in at 8 o'clock, the normal time, and give them a half an hour to take a nap? Put their heads down on the desk and take a nap.
They may accomplish that already. That's not a good way to nap with your head on a desk. You need to recline. At least a recliner.
Says the man who's taken office naps.
So now we give all recliners to all the school students so they can take a nap?
Office naps?
Yes.
Who
He
does
says
that?
I take office naps.
Well, I've seen you nodding off from time to time.
Nodding off.
Right.
Well, I am taking my papers and leaving this office. There goes Mark, snotting off again. No, there is a comfortable chair in my office, and of course, as Kevin is painfully aware, the heat is always too warm in here. It is very easy right after lunch to just
fall asleep.
And out I go. Yes, but then of course delays the end of my day. I still have to get the pile of papers shifted to the other side of the desk. One of our listeners sends us a note, says a shrinking majority of adults, 52%, have both a landline and a wireless phone, while only 6.9% live in a household with just a landline phone and no mobile home. Or no mobile phone.
Can't imagine there isn't anybody that doesn't have a mobile phone today. Or a
6.9%.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Right, but that would just be somebody who really just does not need any connectivity at all. Which is certainly fine if you have a landline and you do not need to travel. For example, if you weren't mayor, would you have to have a cell phone?
Would I have to have a cell phone?
Right.
No, but I'd have one. I'd like to take it. For example, I like to take one out when I go on the boat. If something happens, I can have a way to get in touch with people. I mean, they're tremendously useful. I have nothing against cell phones at all. My concern is I think there has to be a way to fairly divvy up the tax revenue here to help fund county 911 services.
That's another topic. And that's what I talk about.
No, that's the original topic.
Right. That's what I talk about regionalization. I layer on top of that because, if we suppose we do come up with a 911 fee that is taken from cell phones, and we decided to give it to county EMA centers, what should you give? How much should you give to Snyder County? How much should you give to Northumberland County? And what if, for example, Northumberland County is about to make a decision that will cost them more? It's not a wise dollar decision. The most cost-effective way for them to have 911 service for Upper Northumberland County is to negotiate an acceptable rate with Union County. So, would you give the same amount of money to Northumberland County if you know they don't spend money wisely?
Oh, so you're saying it should be a decision based on how they're likely to expend the funds?
Do they
based
spend
on their
the money
track
well?
record?
Right, and that's what I started.
Who's going to make that determination?
Well, that's what I started to allude to with Malcolm Derk, is that he is aware that not all of the dollars that the county spends, they don't have the ability to spend it as wisely as possible because of municipal boundaries and the regional territories that they're stuck with, and the fact that Pima keeps some of this money before they ever even get to see it. So not every dollar that goes in can be spent wisely because of these rules. So the question is, if you're in Pima's headquarters and you're now told to give all this money to counties, and Northumberland County doesn't use it wisely, and Snyder County is ultra wise, would you not give Snyder County an appropriate amount and maybe give Northumberland County a less than appropriate amount?
I think that's sounds like a nice idea, but I think it's actually sophistry. The bottom line to me is that which county has the greatest need for the 911 system, and what is their system functioning at? If Snyder County had a fully functional system, because it's smaller, let's say, than Northumberland County, everything was working perfectly, but Northumberland County had some glitches and problems in their system. Forget the supervisors or the commissioner's ability to spend the money wisely. We're talking about protecting the citizens. I hear Commissioner Clausey all the time say, I'm supporting the taxpayers. Well, sometimes supporting the taxpayers means spending money, and I think when it comes to their health, safety, and welfare, the 911 system is one place where you spend that money, and you spend it to make sure that people are protected to the maximum extent possible.
All right, we invite callers on this topic. I have to take another quick break, but now is the time to call in. We're talking about this 911 dispute that involves dispatching Union and Northumberland County 911 calls to the proper fire company. 1-800-795-9565 is our telephone number. Lenape Solar email in basket is the place where notes that were sent through On the Mark at WKOK.com plop into our email and make a nice little dinging sound. And our main sponsor is the Sunbury Motor Company.
While looking for a vehicle, you know that if it sounds too good to be true, chances are it is too good to be true. You get the runaround, gotta go from place to place. Well, you can just skip all of that and go straight to Sunbury Motor Company. Sunbury Motor Company has been satisfying more customers and selling more cars since 1915, so you know they've got it right. No offers that look good on paper or online, and then you get disappointed when you see them in person. Sunbury Motor Company offers a lineup few other auto dealers in the area can compete with. With the inventory of Ford, Hyundai, Kia, and Lincoln vehicles, there will be no problem finding the right vehicle that fits your needs and your budget. And the friendly, knowledgeable staff's ready and able to help you with everything from the test drive to the drive off the lot. See for yourself at Sunbury Motors. Sunbury Motors, Ford, Lincoln, Hyundai in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury. And Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. Look for them online anytime at sunburymotors.com.
Mobile Deposit is here at the Northumberland National Bank. Use your Nori Bank mobile app on your smartphone or iPad to log in. Take a photo of your check and enter the deposit amount. It's a convenient alternative to visiting your local branch to deposit 1 or 2 checks. Plus, there are no lines, no paperwork, and no worries. With Mobile Deposit from the Northumberland National Bank, banking just got easier. Download the Northumberland National Bank's app now for your convenience. Try it and see how easy it is to have 24/7 account access at your fingertips.
We're used to dealing with problems, standing by you through it all. But whenever it comes to service, you'll find we're always well first. At Northumberland National Bank, the customer always comes first.
The Northumberland National Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
At Northumberland National Bank, the customer always comes first.
Wherever you are right now, right this moment, you've never been closer to saving a child. Every minute, malaria claims another life. But donating just $1 provides a life-saving test and treatment for 1 child in Africa. $1 given, 1 child saved. We have the tools to ensure no child dies from a mosquito bite. $1 at a time, 1 child at a time. That's the power of 1. Save a life now by donating $1 at peel1.org.
By 2025, it's estimated that half the world's population will lack access to safe drinking water. A sorry state of affairs as 2/3 of our planet is covered by water. We are helping develop solutions for salt water to satisfy the thirst of future generations. BASF, the chemical company.
I'm a soul man. I'm a soul man. Got what I got.
Kevin has got that soul theme going on thanks to his Kia Soul that he's driving. Very, very sleek.
Blues Brothers.
30 miles to the gallon in the city, which is just ridiculous.
Did you hear about the big problem on the United Airlines flight last night?
No, enlighten me, please.
Okay, well, the flight started as a United Airlines flight because one passenger, or was a United Airlines flight to, I forget where, it's headed west. Berwick, right. But one of the passengers was using something called, that I had never heard of before, a knee defender. It's a $21.95 gadget that attaches to a passenger's tray table and prevents the person in front of them from reclining their seat. Now, many of the airlines have taken a position against using these things. But in this case, what happened was the fight started and a fight broke out when a male passenger seated in the middle seat of row 12 used the knee defender to stop the woman in front of him from reclining while he was on his laptop computer. According to a law enforcement official with knowledge of the situation who was not authorized to speak, a flight attendant asked the man to remove the knee defender, and he refused. At that point, the woman in the seat ahead of him stood up, turned around, and threw a cup of water at him. That's when United Airlines decided to divert the flight and land in Chicago. The 2 passengers were not allowed to continue on to Denver. They were taken off the plane, but no charges were filed against either of them. So isn't that kind of like the end of civility?
Why should they punish all the rest of the passengers by making them late for their destination?
Well, it turned out they were an hour and 38 minutes late after the diversion to Chicago.
That's ridiculous. To take it down just because they fight, can't you put them in separate locations? Like put one of them in a jump seat?
Are there any corners in an airplane?
Well, no,
you need to go to a corner, you're going to
to
time out.
But there's always one extra seat.
How about putting them in the baggage compartment, where there's no oxygen? See how that works out for them.
Or just flip them.
Well,
reverse them.
It's
Put
a matter
the guy
of
in the
common
front.
courtesy. I mean, you buy something called a knee defender to keep someone ahead of you from reclining their seat.
Well, that's not
The
right.
airline has sold them a ticket for a seat that reclines. Do you have any right to keep them from reclining because it's inconvenient for you?
I don't know. Speedy dialers, 1-800-795-9565. What do you do with the knee defender? I am more shocked and appalled by the fact that you never fly. So it's just
I don't
not
have anywhere to
something-
go.
Right,
If I had a
okay.
place to go where I needed to fly, I'd fly.
How is it different than how's it different than on a bus? Bus
A knee
have those
defend-
same airline
Oh, I
style
see. Okay,
seats.
Well, this happened to be in an area of the plane that actually had about 25% more leg room than other portions of the of coach. So the guy had
Oh,
more leg
business
room to begin
class.
with. Yeah, it was something like that. And he decided on his laptop he didn't want the woman to didn't want to even take the chance, I guess, that she would recline. So he put in this defender that kept her from reclining.
Well, anybody that's ever been on an airplane knows that much more space, you don't need a knee defender.
What, 25% more knee space?
Yeah, I mean that's a significant amount considering you usually get 3 inches.
Well, the Federal Aviation Administration can impose a fine of up to $25,000 for passengers who are unruly. In this case, no arrest was made. So, I would call that being unruly. The guy refused the order of the, isn't that a crime to refuse an order from the flight attendant?
I guess if you're violating an air rule, I would think it would be, yeah, because they're, sort of lieutenant. They have sort of a military hierarchy in the thing.
Well, I think the airline pilot, I grant you, if I were an hour and 38 minutes late for my destination, I'd probably be a little upset. But the pilot doesn't know that fight won't escalate. I mean, maybe,
Well, if they're both in handcuffs at separate portions of the plane.
Well, if there was an air marshal on the plane, and there's not an air marshal on every plane, I
Not
would
on
hope
the-
that he
not
would have
on all
gotten up
domestic
and
flights, no.
would have gotten up and put somebody in handcuffs or made them sit down or calmed the situation somehow. But failing that, I think the pilot did the prudent thing in landing somewhere else, diverting, and calling the police and letting the police sort it out.
This is a little piece or a little clip, I guess you could say, that sits right next to the back of the seat or near the back of the seat on the tray table. And what you do is you clip it on so that, and it's marketed to taller passengers so that the seat can only go back so far. So basically, it's 2 plastic clips that avoid the seat from going back too far. It does, however, come with a courtesy card.
A courtesy card?
Yes.
You give it to the person
You're
in front of you and
right.
say that they can't go back all the way.
Right. There's supposed to be a courtesy card that you give to the person in front of you. I want to see what it says, though. That's the entertaining part. So give me a minute. I'll look for that next.
Dear fellow passenger, this is to add a request that you do not recline your seat to its maximum extent, period. In addition to this request, the person directly behind you has purchased a device that prevents the full reclination of this seat.
Is it
period.
you made this up, or you're quoting something you've
I'm
actually
making
seen?
it up.
All right.
You're not far away. I'm using a knee defender. Knee defender is a small plastic device that helps me to protect myself from limiting how much of the seat in front of me can recline. I wanted to let you know about this and providing the following information. Unfortunately, my legs are so long that if your seat reclines you'll immediately bang into my knees. There's a whole list of other things too you can check off.
But what if that's not true? What if you won't actually bang into their knees? It's a matter of civility. If the airline sells me a seat that reclines, I expect to be able to recline in it.
See you Thursday, sir.
I'll be here. Have a good one. Joe
McGranaghan, Mayor of Shamokin Dam, carries a track phone. If you need them, just call them on the phone. SunburyMotors.com, our main website, the providers of Kevin's Kia Soul. That is just a gorgeous little sleek automobile. LenapeSolar.com, the main website of the provider of Kevin's solar power. And the webcam is up and running. And this is WKOK Sunbury.